my name is Patrick Allitt, and I'm a professor of American history at Emory University in Atlanta, even though, as you can tell from my voice, I'm originally from England. The California Gold Rush is one of the most important events of American history in the 1800s. The discovery of gold in 1848 inspired tens of thousands of people to go there from all over the world in the hope that they could suddenly get rich. Spanish explorers went to California in the early 1600s, but between then and the moment when Mexico declared its independence from Spain in 1810, its population remained tiny. Neither did the California population rise much between then and 1848, when it was part of the Mexican Republic. The United States and Mexico went to war in 1846, and after 2 years of fighting, the victorious US Army entered Mexico City. The Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo, that officially ended the war in 1848, gave most of northern Mexico to the United States. That included all of the territory that is now California, Nevada, Arizona, Utah, and parts of New Mexico and Colorado. This was the most humiliating moment in Mexican history. To add insult to injury, no sooner had the land become part of the USA than gold was discovered at Sutter's Mill, east of Sacramento, in Northern California. It had been there much longer than Europeans had been in the Americas, but only now did somebody notice it. News travelled back east quickly, and then around the world, and a rush began to get to California. It was a difficult journey for nearly everyone. From the East Coast, it meant trekking across the continent, which could easily take 6 months in the days before the Transcontinental Railroad, which would not be built for another 20 years. An alternative was to sail into the Caribbean and cross Central America at its narrowest point, Panama, risking malaria and yellow fever. Another alternative was to sail to the southern tip of South America, around Cape Horn in some of the world's roughest seas, then up the western coast of South America, across the equator, and at last into San Francisco Bay. Many more hopeful prospectors came from every other part of the world. When ships arrived in San Francisco Bay, their crews deserted because the sailors were just as keen as everyone else to make their fortunes in gold. Hundreds of abandoned wooden ships rotted in the harbour. Once arrived, gold hunters had to travel about 100 miles inland to the foothills of the Sierra Nevada mountains, where they could begin digging beside the area's many rivers, or in ancient riverbeds, for flakes of gold. Early arrivals needed no more than a shovel, a pan, a water supply, and a willingness to work hard. They were ruthless towards the Native Americans who lived in these hills, intimidating or killing those who protested. They wrote primitive local constitutions to govern themselves in the little tent communities that sprang up around the diggings. Their rules often specified that Hispanics and Native Americans were excluded, and they provided for whipping, hanging, or banishing all thieves and troublemakers. It was a brutal world where men often outnumbered women 10 to 1. Prices of all basic supplies were inflated. People who made big fortunes in the gold rush were more often dealers in shovels, donkeys, food, and other supplies than gold diggers, because they were in a position to make money from everyone, whether or not they actually found gold. Men who had dreamed of becoming millionaires were nearly always disappointed. Within a year, the population of California had risen so rapidly that it applied to Washington, D.C. for statehood and joined the Union in 1850. From then on, the United States had a west coast as well as an east coast, but with a vast interior land area separating the two. Communication was so difficult in the 1850s that thousands of gold seekers never made the return journey. Instead, they either became paid labourers in underground coal mines or else settled the limited areas of fertile land around the San Francisco Bay and became farmers. The long-term effects of the gold rush were massive. From being a remote backwater, California grew to be one of the richest and most populous states. The population of the whole United States in 1850 was 23 million. Today, the population of California alone is 39 million.